Belle Gunness was a lady fair in Indiana state. She weighed about 300 pounds, and that is quite some weight. That she was stronger than a man, her neighbors all did own. She butchered hogs right easily, and did it all alone. But hogs were just a sideline she indulged in now and then. Her favorite occupation was a butchering of men. Welcome to another episode of Talk Murder to Me. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Episode 230.
We are getting there.
Damn, to where? We don't know.
No, we are just running really fast in place. Or
So
in
where?
circles.
Well, before we get started with today's episode, I do have quite a few Patreon folks to shout out who have joined us. A special thank you to Brittany, to Jessica, to Haley, Travis, and Eric. Thank you all.
Wow, thank you guys so much.
It is just makes me so happy to see every week, when I log in, there's, it's not like there's never any activity. There's just so much going on, lots of interaction, lots of new people. And so we're going to have to play some catch up on surprise shots as well, because we've got a lot of Supremos coming on board. So today's surprise shot dedication is for Tori. Thank you, Tori, for supporting us. We are thrilled to have you, and tonight's surprise shot is dedicated to Vu.
Vu?
Vu.
Voulez-vous?
I guess I'm saying that because we're drinking La Chouffe.
Did she request this?
She did not give us a specific request, so I picked this one out on her behalf.
So it may or may not be good.
No, it smells good.
It'll be good.
I know this is Honey Jack or something.
No.
You can't guess before we take it. You're breaking the rules. Tori, this is for you. Surprise shot. Surprise shot. You messed me up. I can't remember which one I'm supposed to say.
It's with an S. It's plural because we're taking shots as a group.
Give her a break. It's only episode 230.
You've only sang this song 230 times.
More than that with all the live shows and Patreon
Exactly.
episodes. All right, Tori, this is for you as well. Surprise shots. Surprise shots. We don't know what they are because they're a surprise.
Oh, that was a wet one.
Ew.
Are you having some digestive issues?
Just when I
this
thought
evening?
that maybe, just maybe, I might be able to escape from John's input on my song.
Cheers.
Oh,
You forgot.
I'm having a rough day.
Cheers.
That is really good.
Is that Deserono?
It is Deserono.
That's what Deserono tastes like?
Yeah.
God damn, that is really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the amaretto.
Mix it with sour mix. Oh, so good. Wait, do we have sour mix?
You don't even need that
I
shit.
need some.
It's got a lot of sugar in it, though, I bet.
Probably. It's delicious.
I wanted to get some Norwegian beer because of the story tonight, but Total Wine didn't have any. So we're drinking Scotland beer.
Scottish.
Well, I'm
Scottish
drinking that.
beer.
They're drinking La Douche from...
La Chouffe.
I already drank La Chouffe.
I'm not
Yeah.
a fan
I like-
of this.
I like
Scottish
this.
beer.
I'll drink that if you want to drink the La Douche.
All right. Surprise shot number 2. This one is dedicated to Sydney. So Sydney, she is a frequent commenter on John's blog posts. Blah, can't say words. So this is for you, Sydney. This is not a special request, but I'm pretty sure I concocted something amazing on your behalf.
This is for you, Sydney. Surprise shots. Surprise shots. We don't know what they are because they're a surprise.
I feel so targeted. Like now you're like, surprise shots.
Yeah, because you guys made me self-aware and I don't like it.
Jen got woke. That's what it is.
Cheers.
She got woke.
Cheers.
Hypnotic and Malibu.
Yeah.
It almost tastes like those monsters that we had. Remember that time that we used the monster?
Yeah.
You guys go to YouTube if you want to follow along with us tonight. You can also go to talkmurder.com. I got a blog post there with a bunch of photos that you are going to want to see. But tonight we are going to the land of Dick and Jane.
Pleasantville?
We're also going to the land of Jiffy Pop.
Middle America?
And also we're going to the land of a world famous foot doctor. Does anyone want to guess who
Dr.
that is?
Scholes?
There you go, Dr. Scholes. Guys, tonight we are going to McClung Road in LaPorte, Indiana.
Illinois? I thought it was Illinois.
I was going to say Illinois too.
Pretty sure it's Indiana.
Yeah, Indiana, you're right.
Maybe there's a LaPorte also in Illinois.
Now, I'm not sure where exactly the location is, but I know it's right at the end of McClung Road, which is this one right here.
McClung.
So this is McClung Road, and the place we're going to tonight, this is Farmville. I think we're going right here, because in the photos I'm going to show you in a little bit, and I could not find an exact location, but there is a lake right by the home. So I'm thinking it's like right over here somewhere. Now, this is completely different than it was in 1909.
Ooh. Early.
But we are going to
Early 20th century.
LaPorte.
You know what's really sad? Is that now when people check IDs, they are like, they look real quick and they can say, how did you know it was so quick? And it's because you were born in the 1900s.
What?
Whoa.
Oh, yeah.
Whoa, I didn't even think of that.
Well, tick tock, Jen. Gotta find you a man.
Working on it.
She has a love interest.
Tonight, everybody, welcome to Talk Murder Me. Let's get started. We sound like an auctioneer. Welcome, everybody, to Talk Murder to Me. Tonight, we are going to April 28th, 1908. We're going to LaPorte, Indiana. Now, what is Indiana known for?
Corn. The Indiana Pacers. The Indianapolis 500.
Colts.
Well, all that stuff, yeah. But if you're in Indiana...
Steel. Oil.
Did you know that your state was, probably maybe even still is, the number one state for the most memberships of the Ku Klux Klan?
Ooh. Whoa. I would not have guessed that.
Yeah, I wouldn't have guessed that either.
1 out of 4 used to be in the Ku Klux Klan.
Wow.
So,
wow, that is high.
Way to go, Indiana.
I'm shocked that it would be that high.
Yeah, I thought maybe like Alabama or...
No, that's where like the Grandmasters and all that shit.
Oh.
I want to do a story with the Grand Dragons and all that stuff. Really dive into the history there. But anyway,
I don't know.
We're going to April 28th, 1908. A farmhand by the name of Joe Maxson, and I'm going to show you a picture in a little bit, wakes up around 3 a.m. in the morning because he smells smoke. And it is infiltrating his room. Now, he is a farmhand, so he lives with the real farmer that lives there with her. It's a woman. She's a widow. She lives with her 3 kids there. And he is a farmhand helping her out, with the cow auctions, pig auctions, the land tilling, all that stuff she needs to do, the feeding the hogs, all that stuff you do on the farm. He's there to help her. He's only been there for a few months, but he wakes up at 3 a.m. because the smoke just barrels into his room. Now, these are wooden homes, completely wood, no brick or anything. And as you see in the photo right here, this is what remains of a home back in the day when it gets hit by a fire. There's nothing left. And in fact, if you see this photo, I'll put this on talkmurder.com. This is a really interesting photo because cameras weren't, I don't believe cameras were quick flashes back then and it just captures an image. So you can actually see one of the pillars of the house falling there on the right. I thought that was very interesting. You also see a ladder on the ground. So if you're looking at this photo right now, there's nothing left. This farm house that they were living in, completely up in a blaze, burned down to the ground. All right, any questions?
Well, it looks like maybe that was brick, that face.
Or is that like a chimney, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, there's the majority of it is wood.
Well, yeah, I mean, because it's not there anymore, I would assume. But that's interesting. It's kind of like the Three Little Pigs.
Yeah.
All right, who you're looking at now is the farmhand Joe Maxson. As you see the photo here, it's completely demolished. At 3 a.m., he wakes up, he immediately climbs out of his window. He just drops to the ground. The whole house is ablaze. He runs out to the barn. He grabs a hatchet because you have a woman, a widow there with 3 children in the home.
Mm-hmm.
Like 3 small children in the home.
Yeah.
She's probably still asleep. And they're probably still asleep too. One of them stays in the room, the youngest son, with the mama. Mm-hmm. The other 2 don't. But they're still in the home. So he grabs a hatchet and he runs and he tries to knock down the door, but the fire is just too hot. It's too all-consuming. He can't even go back into the he can't even go back into the home.
Mm.
So they're inside still.
That's one of my biggest fears, especially like living alone, is a fire. Well, my house is brick, so I mean, but I mean, if something happens inside, I'm worried that I wouldn't wake up because I'm dead when I'm asleep. Like,
all right. So the photo you're looking at now is of the farmhand Joe Maxson, and what you don't see is the 4 others that were there, the widow and her 3 children. So obviously they were consumed in the fire. So what we're going to try to figure out tonight is who started this fire, because someone not only started the fire, but killed the kids too in the fire. Right? I mean, this is a murder podcast, so this isn't an accidental fire.
Right.
This is a form of arson. Yeah.
Well,
so with arson back then, especially, I think probably still the same today, if you commit arson and people get murdered or die inside the fire, that counts as murder too. So now you got 4 people.
Right.
It was about to be 5, but the one escaped. I'm not saying that he didn't do it, but we'll ask that question a little bit.
Okay. Well, I think that you can cross our names off because we didn't start the fire. It was always burning since the world's been turning.
All right, if you want to read this is from the local newspaper.
The bodies of the mother and her children were found, piled up together, indicating that the mother had evidently made an effort to escape from the house, with children clinging to her.
All right, here's another photo of the fire. You see it's completely the home, which is brick. Yeah, I see it now. The brick foundation standing up, but the whole entirety of the house, other than the brick, is completely demolished, completely burnt to the ground.
Yeah.
And you see it is a big
like
farm.
Bulldozed almost.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You see it is a big farm, and you see like a barn over there in the back and like another little shed. So it's a pretty big farm.
Are we basically looking at the basement at this point?
Yeah, exactly. This is the basement.
Okay.
Very good. Yeah, so everything burned down to the basement. And you see, what you see there is a big support beam. Do you see the support beam on the right there?
Yep.
Keep that in mind.
The mother, aroused from her sleep by the crackling of flames and the fumes of suffocating smoke, true to the maternal instinct, had thrown a quilt about the child, evidently with the idea of protecting its little body from the cold after they gained the open.
The woman, because this is a national tragedy. It's one thing if a widow dies or a man dies or even a kid dies, but a widow and her 3 children all burned to death in a fire.
It's like they've already gone through enough tragedy.
Right.
Exactly. So immediately the press comes out and describes the widow as you see here, heroic. Basically, she did everything she could to save. As you see here, she was protecting her youngest son by putting a quilt over him, so when she did make it out of the house, he'll be warm, stuff like that. But she just could not get out of the house. Mm-hmm. But they wanted to make her a hero because the media wanted to really find out who did this, who killed all these kids and this widow, and really drive it home that they're a monster. So they're really putting a positive light on the mother. Now, the little boy, the youngest, quote, whose face was black with a hole in the forehead from a falling brick.
Oh, wow.
And you saw the rubble and the support system there. Its limbs below the knees had been completely burned away. So below the knees, the child's legs were not even there, burnt in the inferno. The child's mouth was open, silent testimony to the agony of death, end quote.
Wow.
Very titillizing. Back in the day, from what I learned in this story, I'm sure it's, I mean, you look at like the Daily Mail and, Talk Murder Me, they're very sensational. So, but back in the day, they didn't really have any guidelines. So to sell papers, it was just a free-for-all.
Also, I mean, I feel like back in the day, pictures were not as available, so you had to use written word to really get your point across.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Very good point. I like that.
Thank you.
Here's another photo here of the carnage. Now, this is more about the mother.
It looks like a very big farmhouse. Is that
Oh, yeah, it's
accurate?
huge.
What
Very,
is that?
It's a huge
What do those
farm.
words say?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good point. I didn't even see that. That's where the bodies of the children were found. Yeah, they were all found laying there. They were in a row.
Weird.
Like burned. And keep in mind, they were in separate rooms. The mother and the son was in one room on the bed, and then the two daughters were in a separate room. However, they were found lying in a row.
That's weird.
Very weird.
Parallel to each other.
Very strange.
And that's why the detectives wrote that on the wall. It says 4 bodies found here.
Oh, weird. The mother, whose body was an unrecognizable mass with bones protruding through naked flesh, rendering her remains even more appalling, was the absence of her head, decapitated by ruthless torturing flames. The diggers in the ruins have yet to find the skull.
I didn't know that a fire could decapitate you. That sounds like foul play to me.
Yeah, agreed.
Well, her head was completely severed off.
That does not seem like the doing of a fire.
No.
And
It should at least be nearby.
Yeah.
but the problem is, yeah, it should at least be nearby. And they couldn't find it
Yeah, that's
at
weird.
all.
Yeah, something don't add up there.
Unless the only thing that I could imagine is if in the fire, like they had an axe posted on the wall and it happened to drop with the force enough to cut her head off, and then it rebounded somewhere off with a
the medical
freak accident. But that doesn't sound very
Freak
likely.
accident.
The
for
medical
sure.
examiner is claiming that, and I showed you that support beam that was.
Yeah.
If that thing burns up and gets real hot,
falls.
that thing could cut through your neck like a hot
but
butter
it's
knife.
still like for them to not be able to find it, still odd.
But bone is made of carbon. It doesn't just that doesn't just happen. Like it doesn't. I don't know. I don't know. I don't even know if that makes any sense. But
It's
I
like
just,
bones made of carbon. Oh wow.
isn't it?
I don't know.
Isn't bone mass made of carbon?
The humans are also made of carbon.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
all made of carbon.
Yeah, I
I'm so
know.
confused.
I don't
Okay.
know.
I don't know. I don't even know people.
All right. Describe.
It sounded good.
I did it. When it came out of my head, it sounded like it was a good point. But, it's probably just one of those genisms.
It's probably the beers.
All right. This is
The beers.
This is the prime suspect right here. This isn't the farmhand.
Kind of reminds me of Dr. House.
Oh,
Like, yeah,
shit.
he does.
Super
It
fast
does.
glance with a
Lowry.
mustache.
Yeah.
Hugh Lowry.
Is that his name?
Yeah.
He's a pianist.
Wow.
Yeah. Which means he plays with his piano. He plays with his.
Womp, womp.
Before he was in House, he was in 101 Dalmatians.
Oh, he played Roger in the real life version?
He was he was the bad guy.
Oh, never mind. House is a great medical show, and I know we've talked about this before, and I was just like, I saw a clip and it just reminded me how much I love this show, but Scrubs was actually named one of the
Oh,
most
God,
accurate
please.
medical
Well,
shows.
I know. We have discussed this.
Jesus Christ, please. Don't even. It's the worst show.
I I do love Scrubs.
And
So
Zach Braff and Donald Faison have their own podcast called the Real Fake
Okay,
Doctors,
stop
Real
promoting other people's podcasts. They're going to leave ours to listen to someone else's. What the fuck?
we need every second of listening we can get.
Anyway, this right here is Ray Lamphere, Lamphere. He's a former farmhand,
Okay.
and he left on very bad terms.
Disgruntled.
Very disgruntled.
Did he know the husband?
No, he didn't know the husband.
So there's no connection to his death.
No.
Okay.
But he did work for the widow.
Okay.
And apparently there were some payment issues or whatever. And not only that, and I'll kind of get to this later, but the mother, the widow, had went to the sheriff numerous times in the last few weeks, filing reports, say this guy, he's trespassing on my farm. He's looking through my windows at night.
Climbing in your window.
He is
snapping
really-
your people up.
He is really making my life hell. He's scaring myself, my children, and he's actually been arrested multiple times for trespassing.
Yeah, so you better hide your kids, hide your wife.
Right before this fire goes out, the mother goes to the bank and says, if something happens to me, I want my entire farm and everything I own. Basically, here's what she's saying. If something happens to me, aka this guy is going to kill me, I'm pretty sure of it. I want my entire farm and all of my possessions donated to the Children's Lutheran Hospital.
That's really reminiscent of that.
And that's what
Yes.
happened. All of her stuff, and she did it right in time too. Like the paperwork signed, then the fire burns down. You know, the kids are dead. All of her stuff, all of her belongings get transferred to the children's home for the Lutheran, because she was Lutheran. So that's why she did it, because if she didn't do it, there was no executor or anything else. The farm would just go to the state.
Well, you mentioned payment problems, but it's the very early 1900s, and I feel like it would be harder for women. I mean, I know they own a farm, so you're going to get some income for the animals and things, but you know, if she's the head of the household trying to run a farm, it must have been more difficult for her back then than if today, you know, there was a woman running a farm.
Well, she was wealthy-ish. She was wealthy. At the time, for today's currency, about 1.2 million.
Billion?
Million.
Million. Still.
$1.2 million.
then?
Yeah. So she's got some money.
And back then.
No.
No, today.
What
Oh,
she was making
still.
then
Yeah.
is equal to 1.
It's like
Still.
7,
Yeah,
well,
you
no,
know, chump
I don't know,
change.
120,000, 200,000, something like that today.
for back then.
Back then.
I mean, I'd take that. Sign me up.
I mean, it's about how much we make with our podcast.
yeah.
All right, this is more.
Just kidding. Please donate to us on Patreon.
I'm an educator.
People are going to
okay?
cancel their subscriptions.
I'm trying to quit my second job.
All right, this is the mother and the children. You may have seen this photo before. If you have, don't say anything if you know the story. But this is the mother and the children.
I don't know this story.
No, but she looks like Mrs. Trunchbull
Oh, she does.
Who?
You know who else?
from Matilda.
yeah.
I never
You know
seen
who
it.
else?
The chocolate cake.
There's 1,000 movies. You haven't seen The Breakfast Club.
You haven't
Okay,
seen the
you
Breakfast
haven't
Club?
seen-
Even
I've seen
I've seen the
parts of it.
Breakfast Club.
You haven't seen 1,000 movies that are good. And I'm sorry, I haven't seen Matilda.
I'm sorry,
That's a
but it was
classic.
a classic of our
I
childhood.
mean, I guess I can't really talk because I haven't seen any movies. You know who else reminds me of Miss Trunchbull?
Who?
Aunt Lydia from The Handmaid's Tale.
Yes. I
Trunchbull
100% agree.
Okay,
I have a
moving
crush
on.
on that girl, that the main character from Mad Men.
Oh, yeah, Elizabeth Olsen.
Peggy?
No, that's not her name. Her name is
Yeah.
Elizabeth Moss,
Well, Elizabeth Moss.
I think, right?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Peggy /
She will always be Peggy to me.
Yeah.
No,
It's weird.
Peggy from what?
Mad Men.
Mad Men, yeah.
It's hard. It's weird. It's different seeing her in a different role.
Yeah.
She was also in that film with Tiffany Haddish and
I think she does a
Most
great
of my-
job in Handmaid's Tale.
she
though.
does.
I mean, because
do you like that show? Because I just finished
everyone likes that show.
I
You
didn't
didn't
know-
watch the third season.
There is no book based on the third season. They just make shit up like they did Westworld.
I don't know. We never even
Well,
finished Westworld.
the fourth season.
Well, I
is
can't
coming-
say anything because I never read the fucking books. I don't
The
even
fourth
know.
season is coming out.
I know, you're like, it veered off the book. I never read the book.
For what?
Did you read the book? No.
No, fuck no.
And I'll admit that. I never read the book.
No, me
Normally,
either.
like I just read Crazy Rich Asians, and I'm like, okay, now I can see the movie. I never saw the
liked
movie.
that movie. They're making a second one. I heard
She can read a book literally in a day.
that is something that I cannot do.
So, but he's written 3 other books, so I don't know if they're a trilogy, if they're related to one another.
Who?
Or,
Crazy Rich Asians or The Handmaid's Tale?
Crazy Rich Asians.
No, the Handmaid's
we're
Tale is
talking about
that
two different
Margaret Atwood.
Yeah. I didn't know that you were watching it. Otherwise, I would have talked to you about it because
I've already seen it. We've already
it
seen
was a long time, like because
I
that
remember when you
season
guys
came
were
out a
watching
long
it.
time ago.
Yeah, but I
Yeah.
finally
Like
just
at least
watched
2
it.
years ago.
Yeah, I remember when you guys were first watching it. I was like, oh yeah, I wanted to watch this, and then I just never did. But I didn't know that you were watching it too. And the 4th season is coming out in 2 weeks. And I'm
Yeah,
He
like-
never watched season 3.
Anything dystopian I'll watch like that.
Would you
watch it.
rewatch it so we can watch season 4 together?
It'll be our new superstore.
Probably
Yeah.
not. No.
All right, no, we'll watch it too.
All right.
I might rewatch 1 to 3.
All right, read this,
Go
Niquiz.
ahead. I mean, I finished them, so.
And this is what you're reading tonight is from the book, and I'm going to show you what the book is here in a second. Very great book. I love this book. I love the author, my favorite true crime author, and I'll talk about that in a second. But if you want to read this,
The mother's left arm burned off to the upper third of the humerus. Right arm burned off at the shoulder. Right leg burned off at the knee. Left foot burned off at the ankle. All muscular tissue was thoroughly burned and charred.
See, I didn't realize. Like, I didn't think that a fire could dismember you. I know it could burn through your flesh, but I thought the bones would
not
still be
even
intact.
dismember. Yeah, dismember, but
Right.
also dismember your legs and your arms.
That's what I'm saying.
They're all
That
stubs.
doesn't sound right to me. That doesn't sound right.
Something is off. And this is why.
What do you think
It's called Doc Murdered to me. It's
What?
not the fire got
Well,
me.
we knew it was.
What do you think? I'm
arson.
burying the lead here. Is
Little
that what
bit.
you're doing?
Little
Is that what
bit.
I'm doing?
The entire right side of the torso, from chest to abdomen, had been burned away, leaving the internal organs completely exposed. The lungs, intestines, liver, and pancreas all appeared normal, except cooked.
Cooked. I have never seen that before. Cooked. Think about your organs. Like
No.
if
Reminds
you
me of
want
a
to.
cannibal story.
Not even in a cannibal book I've read, I've seen that where it's like the organs are cooked.
So like there.
But wasn't the
it's
sausage
burned
guy?
away.
Wasn't the sausage guy cooking the other guy's intestines?
yeah,
he
but
was cooking his
the
ding
way
dong.
the
Oh,
way they
right.
say it here,
Ding dong. Ding, ding, ding.
the way that they say it here, I never seen it. You know, the organs. So think about your organs, your heart or whatever. It was when they found it, it was cooked, and the medical examiner tried to weigh the charred remains, but when you cook something, things get lighter, right? Because the water evaporates and it shrivels up. So
Interesting. Hadn't thought
all
about
of the
that.
organs were cooked. Yeah, because back then, if they want to kind of make sure that it's, identify the victim properly or whatever, they would weigh the remains. And that was one way they did it back then. Even in a charred grilled situation where they remain or where they weigh the ashes, they would still do that. But the organs were so cooked that they shrank up.
That makes sense, I guess. Like a hot dog does shrink when you cook it.
What you're looking at now is some bystanders and some detectives. Let me tell you what happened. You remember the mother?
Yes.
She is absent of a
Head.
So the main job, obviously, is to find the head. Yeah, to find the head. So they're with their spades, which are shovels. They're looking everywhere for this head. Where is this woman's head? Okay, the medical examiner does say, yeah, that this could happen. A beam could fall off and slit your head off completely.
But
it
wasn't
should
the
be
beam
nearby.
intact?
It should be nearby.
Right.
The head should be nearby.
Right.
Now, this was 100 years ago, so I feel like they didn't really understand that premise as we do now. But yes, the head should still be by. It should not have burned up on its own and everything else didn't burn up. So the head is somewhere to be found. So what do they start doing? They start digging. They dig and dig and dig. when they're digging to find a head, they come across some other things. Number one, they find a dozen of shoes, all from a man. Men's shoes, different sizes.
Which the husband's dead.
sizes.
Yeah, different sizes. There's an 8. There's like a 13-inch, which was, something I'd wear.
Well, she did have a bunch of different farm hands.
Yeah, so the
correct?
farm hands, exactly. So they just left their shoes there. Anyway,
Oh,
under
that.
said shoes lay a quote, a heap of human bones, end quote.
So was she killing off her farm hands?
A heap. A heap.
So was this arson justified? She was killing her farm hands, and then this farm ham killed her. Farm ham.
All right, go ahead and read this, Niquiz.
Ham. Their spades struck a patch of loose soil that gave off a nauseous smell. About 3 feet down, rotting burlap, the remnants of a sack in which a torso had been stuffed, clung to the ribcage, pelvis, and spine. The skull, which bore a 3-inch gash, lay nearby along the sawed-off leg bones.
It took them days,
Well, there's a head.
weeks to dig up the entire form. And if you go look even nowadays, you can find some bone fragments. They found 28, from what they think, 28 skeletons.
Whoa.
Along with the mother and the three
Diggity dog.
I wonder if she killed her husband, too.
three children.
This
Yeah,
reminds
maybe.
me of the silver fox, the fox farm.
Oh God, that one.
Yeah, Hugh.
Wait,
his
not
name
the
is
not
Hugh,
the
wasn't
early
it?
one, right?
No, the Herb Baumeister one.
Herb Baumeister.
Oh.
Yeah. What was his farm called?
They
The
found
fox?
a wreck, or excuse me, they found a heap of human bones. A heap of human bones.
That's a
So-
large amount. A heap is an adjective for a large amount.
Well, here's the thing. All the papers go from the mother, so heroic, trying to protect her child, yada, 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 putting a blanket on the child so when he gets out in the cold, he'll still be warm. We adore this mother, very heroic. To what
Holy
the fuck?
shit.
We have the biggest serial killer since H.H. Holmes now. And H.H. Holmes was, still in the minds of
He bad.
the public. So they're like, what the shit is going on in Indiana?
Isn't that where Herb Baumeister was too?
Now,
Potentially. I can't remember.
let's go back to the woman's body. There's no head on it.
Where is my mind?
Give me a guess of what do you guys think? Why would there be no head on it?
The farm
Because you
hand
cut off. Yeah.
dismembered her and took the head as a souvenir.
Let's say the woman is the serial killer.
Possible.
Why would there not be a head on the body? Why would you cut a head off if you're like in the mafia or something? So you can't identify the body, right? So what if she cut the head off of one of the 28 plus dead bodies laying around the hog pen of a woman that she's killed and made the detectives think, hey, that is me, but I booked it out of town. No? Okay.
Oh, you just blew my mind. I didn't even think about
Wait.
that.
All right.
What?
Tonight we're reading.
Imposter syndrome.
All right, tonight we're reading from the book from Harold Schechter. He is my favorite true crime author. I recommend any book that he's ever written. Very thoroughly researched, but also
You like him?
entertaining to read.
You like him even better than Anne Rule?
It's kind of different.
You don't have to answer that. We can cut that.
So this is Belle Gunness.
I have heard the name before.
I
And
have not.
it is Gunness. I might call her Guinness or Guinness or something.
Guinness.
But
We are,
Guinness?
we are drinking stout.
Yeah.
apparently it's pronounced Gunness.
Guinness.
Now she is known as a few things. She is
Pew.
one of the most prolific serial killers in all of true crime history.
Really?
And it's also one of the most spectacular mysteries out there because no one knows if that was her or not. There's no head on the body.
And there was no DNA back
There's
then.
Well, exactly.
Bingo.
But if all of her children were dead,
Were they really her children?
We're getting we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Were they really her children?
Most of you listeners out there would have probably gotten this. There's no head on the mother, and she's a serial killer, so maybe she got away somehow.
So would this be just any other female then? Like just some random woman? Or is she trying to pass a male off as her?
No, it was a female's body.
Okay.
However, it was the kids' bodies too.
Did she actually have children?
Yes.
Okay. Did she actually kill these children?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Now you're getting it. All right, this is the Hell's Princess, known as Belle Gunness, Gunness, and from everyone, because I actually looked up how to pronounce her name, and that's what everyone else says her name is, so I guess that's it. Gunness.
So was Hell's Princess her moniker?
Yeah, she actually had a lot of monikers. Lady Bluebeard. Bluebeard is someone that kills her husband. You know, as a husband killer. Black Widow. That's the old.
I didn't know that Bluebeard was one. It made me think of pirate.
It's like an olden term for that. The Laporte Ghoul, the Indiana Ogress, the human vampire, or the human vamp, the female Bluebeard, the High Priestess of Murder. I love that one. The Mistress of the Castle of Death.
Whoa.
The Queen of Crime, and the Hell's Princess. And the book we're reading tonight is called The Hell's Princess. It is from Harold Schechter, an extremely talented true crime author. And in fact, this book is on Kindle Unlimited, so you can get it for free. And the great thing about this book is it uses something called Kindle in Motion or something like that. If you're on your Kindle app and you get this book for free, it has animations. So, and like, for instance, it'll show you a newspaper clipping from where he pulled a source at, and then as you scroll down, it will get bigger and like on the screen. So it's cool. Like it's in motion, and it'll have like the chapters that have the floral kind of thing.
Yeah.
It'll like draw that on the thing. Cool. I have to show you what I'm talking about.
Sounds like something from Harry Potter.
Those new apps that animate the old pictures. Have you heard of that or seen? Well, you guys are off social media, so probably not. But they have this app now that, like, if you have an old picture
of yourself. Yes, I have seen that.
And it, like, you can have like an old picture of a grandfather or someone, and it's just like
scary.
It's creepy. It is kind of like Harry Potter, but also like creepier.
So check it out, Kindle Unlimited. I'll put the link on talkmore.com. So a little bit about Belle Gunness, which is not her real name, and I'm going to get to that in a little bit. But she has killed at least 28, but probably a lot more.
That's
probably
like a full classroom.
Probably over 50 at least.
Whoa.
And a lot of the bones and stuff were just all together in random boxes, so they can't really tell how many victims there are. She vanished from the popular belief, and this wasn't the belief back in the time, but they found the woman's body with no head on it. Obviously, a brick or a column didn't fall and slice her head off. That's just the stupidest thing ever. Apparently, they believed that back in the day, which is just mind-boggling to me. Obviously, if you look at it today, she planted that body there. She did kill her kids because think about it. She needs to escape. She's a serial murderess now. She needs to escape. And she can't avoid capture too well with 3 little snot-nosed kids hanging on her.
Young would have
kids.
gotten away with it, too.
She has got to kill them
kids,
so she killed her kids. She vanishes from the popular belief. Now, some people do believe that was her body down there. I guess we'll never know. But the popular belief is she vanished, and there were multiple sightings of her, just like the infamous Katie Bender, which we did that story from the Bloody Benders. In fact, there's even some that claim that this was Katie Bender.
Wow.
But that's just too far-fetched for me.
Well, what was the year difference? Because that was Katie
late
Bender.
1800s?
Yeah.
This was 1908.
Well, I know you said that, but I was talking about the Benders. Was the
late 1800s.
So let me talk about the background of the Hell's Princess here. 22 years old when she immigrated, and she immigrated from where, Nicole?
Norway.
Norway, very good. She grew up around Selbu, near the city of Trondheim. Her real name is
Never been.
Brynhild Paulsdottir. Paulsdottir.
Okay.
And you can translate that last word, Paulsdottir. You want to give it a whirl? What does that translate to? What does it sound like?
Paul's daughter.
There you go. It literally translates.
Yes.
Her entire name is Brynhild Paulsdottir Storset, which is the farm name added to the word the daughter of Paul. So
Paul was the farmer at Stas, and then it was his farm, and then she's his daughter.
It is pretty
Brynhild.
interesting how like last names came to be. Don't you think
well,
so?
you know, it's the same as like Leonardo da Vinci, right? I mean, he was from Da Vinci.
Right.
So everyone that was in that time period, your last name would be where you're from, which makes a lot of fucking sense.
So for like,
but then again, they didn't
I'm
travel like we travel.
Something in my family had something to do with doors. Like, were they door makers? I guess.
Or maybe
Perry is also a French name.
No, it's not.
Yes, it
no,
is.
Oh my
I
God.
think it's English.
It's Native
Or maybe
American.
it's Portuguese.
No, it's not.
But Collins is like in Gaelic is O'Colleen, which means of Nicholas.
Like
There you go.
translated into intoxicated and drunkard.
Yes. In
Lady,
layman's terms.
lady drunkard.
Guilty.
My mom's family is Glasser, so I'm assuming they did something with glass making.
Maybe like bongs.
Perhaps. I don't know if they were that cool, but
So this is Brynhild Paulsdottir Storset. She was born on November 11th, 1859. So she was about 50 years old when this happened, when she basically killed her 3 children and then booked it.
midlife crisis or
Because she knew that shit was coming down and she was about to get caught. So she booked it, and then they find at least 28 bodies
I have a question, though.
buried under the barn.
I have a question. So the name on the book is Butcher of Men. I'm assuming that most of the farmhands were men, but how do you think she found the woman to
No, there
kill?
were sightings of women coming down to the farm too, especially right before she went right before the arson took place. I'm going to get into the MO in a little bit, but this is a very devious woman, and that's a really good point. But remember when I told you before the arson happened, what did she do? She goes to the sheriff and says, this guy is stalking me.
he's a bad dude.
All this stuff. Then she goes and donates. She goes and donates her farm and all of her possessions
to the Lutheran Church.
Why did she do that? She did that to cast away suspicion. She can't take her farm with her. She knows she's got to go on the run. She may as well try to cast off suspicion, and that's why she did that.
Yeah, that's pretty smart.
I'm wondering what. Like,
Actually, the guy Ray Lamphere, which I believe and everyone else believes, had nothing to do with it, even though he was tried and found guilty of the arson. And he was going to spend 25 years in prison, but he died a year later.
Oh.
Anyway,
well, that's sad.
Some sort of medical issue, but yeah, he had nothing to do with it.
Well, she was worth $1.2 million, you said. So in order to to be able to live, she must have somehow sold something or made some sort of money to be able to live off of it. She escaped.
That was liquid.
And who got the insurance policy?
So that was liquid. So she had not that much, but most of her money was in cash. And she got the cash from what we're going to talk about from all these there weren't any farmhands. Of course, there were a few, but these were men wanting to marry a rich widow. And then, as we're going to talk about, she's like, well, before you come and live your life with me, make sure you sell all your possessions and get cash for it, and then sew the cash into your fur coat and then come live with me. And then a week later, they'll be dead. And she is a lot richer. So she made $1.2 million doing this. I mean, there are about 30 dead bodies in the fucking in the hog pen. But anyway, she was born on November 11th, 1859. And this is from one of her acquaintances, a quote, unlovely young woman with a large head, small eyes, short nose, and wide, fat-lipped mouth that when set in a frown bore resemblance to a frog's. Shit.
Ribbit. I can kind of see that, though, with her picture on the cover there.
Yeah.
Yeah, she does look like a frog.
Or just like the eyes, the nose, the mouth, but...
Dee just posted something about tadpoles, bullfrog tadpoles.
Oh, there you go.
Isn't that coincidental?
It is.
See, we pay attention. We pay
attention.
Attention.
All right, so here's another photo of her. She came from a relatively poor family, one of 7 children. Her father was a sharecropper and also a part-time stonemason. All the children did farm work, including her, and which served her well after she became a widow, several times a widow.
Oh.
And she had to maintain the farm by herself. And I don't know if you can notice by her photo, but this is a very stout woman. You know how Norwegians, they're the Vikings and they're big?
Yeah.
I think the strongest man in the world is from Norway. Wasn't that the guy on Game of Thrones or something? What's his name? His name is like...
the character's name was The Mountain.
No, yeah, but his name is Thor. That's his real name. It's like Thorson or something. Very Viking-y.
Don't know.
But he's huge. Anyway, the Vikings, Norway, they're very stout and big. So try to guess how much she weighs. And it's more than me.
230.
So I weigh...
How tall is she?
5'9", 6".
Okay.
So I'm 220. So she weighs over 280 pounds. She is a big woman.
She doesn't look like that
and
big.
And she's 5'9"?
So imagine her escaping.
She's
okay,
be able to run
she is
far.
a 300-pound woman.
Can't conceal her very well.
But
that would
then
be
again,
like me escaping.
But then again, back in the day, they had, women would wear the black veils over their face if they're widows or whatever. So she could conceal her face like that.
Yeah.
Plus, she's not even in Indiana anymore. She most likely went to Chicago. That's what kind of the general consensus is. A lot of people think she went to California.
Huh.
Either way, the family could not afford firewood, so they sent her out to pick twigs, which then she got the name from her local town as Snurkvisbla, which translates into Paul's twig daughter. Twig daughter.
I guess it's accurate.
Ironic if she's not like a twig.
She's not a twig, but she is a gatherer of twigs.
A gatherer.
She's also from Lutheran stock, which, if you're a Southern Baptist, we think Lutherans are a bunch of drunks. So
interesting.
And that's...
Didn't know that.
Wow, I'm worried about what you guys think about Catholics.
Oh, I've done told you, the kids.
Technically, I am one. She is remembered by many as a very bad human being, capricious and extremely malicious. She had unpretty habits, always in the mood for dirty tricks, talked little and was a liar already as a child. As a grown-up, she was still little respected and was scum of society.
Now, one thing that I can relate to, Nicole can probably also relate to, is she loved money. She loved money. She was money, quote, money
Nicole
mad.
Can relate to. Is that a Jewish joke?
I thought he was making fun of himself.
Baby.
And how much he loved money.
I do love money. Money
Yes.
is the root of all happiness. Shit. Anyway, this is what her sister says.
My sister was insane on the subject of money. Nellie Larson would later remark she would do anything to get it. She never seemed to care for a man for his own self, only for the money or luxury he was able to give her.
Yeah, it sounds like women in general. Oh, shit. I probably should cut that.
Mm-hmm. If you know what's good for
I'm
you.
going to leave it in. Ain't no woman listens to this. It's all men that listen to this.
False. I think you're targeting our key demographic here.
So let's talk about her first husband, this handsome guy with the mustache right there.
I wish I had a pencil thin mustache.
You know who he looks like? I don't know his name, but he's an actor that he's played in a Western role as the bad guy. You know what I'm talking about?
I know who you're talking about, but I do not know who he is. Or like, I don't
He
know what
is
his
a
name is.
fantastic villain, and I cannot remember his name. He's got like reddish hair, and he's not like maybe reddish hair. He's not like the main bad guy in the Western, but he's like the sidekick bad guy. Is that what you're talking about?
What movie? Can you think of the movie?
It's something famous. I don't. Maybe it's Old Country for. No, that's not it. I want to say it's one with the guy from Men in Black. What's that guy's name? Not Will Smith. The other one.
Tommy Lee Jones?
Yeah.
That's weird that you referenced Men in Black. I swear I had a dream about Men in Black last night.
Well, that's weird.
Here comes the Men in Black.
Going over her background, at 17, allegedly she was raped and became pregnant by a son of a wealthy landowner. Now, this landowner, from what the accounts say, lured her after she was pregnant to a private area. Now, no one knows if she wanted to keep the kid or even if this is true.
Okay.
But apparently he beat her so badly that she miscarried.
Ooh.
And after that, she's not able, her body's not able to produce her own children, which is crazy because she has children. There were children dead in the fire.
Right.
So where did they come from?
Adoption.
Well, I would get to that in a second.
Stolen.
Soon,
Farm help, yeah.
soon after he beat the baby out of her, he dies of arsenic poisoning. Now, there's no proof of this, but he may have been Belle's first kill of arsenic poison. And
It sounds very
Yeah,
plausible.
if you raped me and then beat me, I would probably be upset enough to kill you.
Yeah.
the guy you're looking at right now, his name is Mads, M-A-D-S, Ditlev Anton Sorensen. This is Belle's first husband.
Okay.
She moves to Chicago, or immigrates to Chicago. She changes her name like a lot of immigrants do. They change their name to sound more American. Her name becomes Bella Peterson. Mm-hmm. She meets this guy, Mads Ditlev. They fall in love. They get married in March of 1884. Now, he's not a well-to-do man. He's just a night watchman, a security guard for a department store. But they fall in love and they get married. She loves children. And even after she miscarried, she would take in orphans that don't have a home. They need food. She would take them in all the time. She would feed them, give them clothes, raise them, whatever. There was always kids coming in and out of the home. And at first, she adopts her very own daughter, which you're seeing in the photo right here. Her name is Jenny Olsen. She was also found in the charred remains. Okay. She was the adopted daughter. She adopted her from a nearby friend of the couple's.
Okay.
Right after she adopted Jenny Olsen, Belle and her new husband decided to buy a candy store. And this isn't really relevant, but it didn't end up failing. It was a failed business to begin with. So they, most likely, Belle burned it to the ground.
Oh.
So that's her first arson experience. And the reason to do that is to get
money.
The reason to do that is to get the insurance. Mm-hmm. And she did get her investment completely recouped. Okay.
I'll let you lick the...
That actually came on my Pandora today.
Really?
So, yes. I was listening to Hip Hop BBQ playlist.
Look how...
That's one of your standards.
It is.
Look how creepy this photo is right here.
Incredibly creepy.
It's like American Girl dolls, but like an actual real photo.
Yeah.
So this is Belle with two of her daughters. So over the next few years, she would have 4 children of her own. And
I do have to say that the photo you just showed before this one was very clear, like very high def.
Yeah.
Huh?
If you go back to the last photo.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like very, very clear, very high def.
They must have been posing for forever.
So over the next few years, about 2 years, she would have 4 children. 2 of them would die, which was normal back in the times.
She would have those children?
Well, here's the thing.
Because I thought you said she was not able.
Here's the thing. The children would be in her presence and she would claim them as her kid. She would have Myrtle, like in Superstore.
Myrtle.
Axel, Lucy, and Caroline.
Axel's like a very non-early 1900s name, I feel like. That's very...
Axel Rose.
Yeah.
2 would die after birth, which was pretty normal in the times. Caroline and Axel died. Myrtle and Lucy were the only ones to survive, and that's who you're seeing now. It's actually not known if they're her kids. For instance, she never showed signs of being pregnant, which, you know, she's a big woman, so maybe they missed it.
Yeah.
When the midwife came, each time a different midwife comes to deliver the baby. Oh, it's time. I'm in labor. You know, pooting a little bit.
That's, I heard that, like, being pregnant feels so awesome, but then, like, I've also heard, like, the giving birth is, I mean, obviously that's the thing, is that it hurts a lot. But I've heard that a lot of people like being pregnant. It feels really cool. But I don't know. I'm afraid of being pregnant and having a child.
Some people say being pregnant is the worst. Like, first trimester, you're exhausted.
I just can't imagine growing a human inside of you. Like, we'll see what happens. I don't know if it's going to happen to me if I'm blessed enough or whatever, but, like, I'm terrified of giving birth.
We can always just steal one.
Totally logical.
Right. I mean, like, I could also go through the legal process and adopt a child.
Yeah, it takes
or
forever.
foster a child. There are a
John
lot
Perry
of children.
switcheroo.
Oh my God. I don't want this one anymore. Take the serial number off. That's terrible.
Ready to switch.
I don't know. I've thought about fostering. If I, don't
think
end
that's
up
an
getting,
awesome idea.
If I don't end up getting married, or if I can't have kids, I've definitely thought about fostering.
I love that.
So she showed no signs of pregnancy, which, you know, she's 280 pounds, so I don't know. But when the midwife came, each time a different midwife comes to the house. Oh, I'm ready to do it. I'm in labor. Push, 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 or whatever. I see it in the movies.
I was like, good job, John.
Handmaid's Tale. Breathe, breathe, breathe.
Yeah.
Push.
Every time a midwife comes to deliver the baby is already born, cleaned, and dressed and ready to go. Not only that, but each time they comment that the baby looks a little too old to be a newborn.
A little large.
It's like, does your baby have a mustache?
A little large and in charge.
It's like that SNL skit where she's in labor
Ferrell,
and Will Ferrell comes out. Oh, it was hot in there.
So a lot of people think that she couldn't have babies at all, and I don't know. She went to the hospital and stole the baby. I don't know. I don't know how she would got these babies.
False labor pains.
I don't know, but they may have been her kids. No one knows. That will never be solved. Anyway, she moves to, this is before the farm, when she lived on the murder farm. She goes to Alma Street, which they end up burning down for the investment. So that's second arson. They get the settlement in April of 1990. And then right after the husband dies, a few months after the house burns down, and they get the settlement. The husband dies after he had a, quote, fearful headache, end quote. Now, fortunately for Bella, real fortunate, she ended up taking out 2 life insurance policies on him. Actually, one was in the process of getting being expired, and she took out another one. And right then, it was the perfect overlap. So she got both insurance policies when this dude died. What is today worth $150,000.
Whoa.
She banked from that. So, yeah, that is when she moves to LaPorte, Indiana, and she buys that farm.
She got some Monet.
Her second husband was this guy. He's a, quote, fine-looking blonde Viking of a man with clear blue eyes and pointed yellow beard and mustache, end quote. That's him right there.
Oh, yeah, he's a good-looking fella.
These Vikings. His name is Peter what?
Skarsgård.
Gunness. Very good. Peter Gunness. Now, he married her for her money, apparently, because now she's $150,000 richer. She got a farm. And she's making good money.
Yeah.
Because she's a lot older than him. And how they know each other is when she was married to her first husband, he was one of the people that boarded the home. You know, didn't have a place to stay, kind of like Jen, what she did with us. You know.
Yeah, it sounds so much worse.
Yeah, legit.
Shit.
I mean, I did live in a hotel for 2 weeks in the worst, one of the roughest parts of Charleston. Let's not forget.
So,
I'm sorry, did you have something to say about that?
This is Peter Gunness. He most likely married her for her money because at this time she's, I don't know, older. Almost, she's over 40. She's not looking good. In fact, one acquaintance said...
She does look like Miss Trunchbull.
It's all about personality, John.
Yeah, well, personality. One acquaintance described her as, quote, a fat, heavy-figured woman with a big head covered with a mop of mud-colored hair, small eyes, huge hands and arms, and a gross body supported by feet grotesquely small.
Where did you find that article about me?
I mean, that is so fucking...
Jen, your feet are not small.
You're right. I do have large feet. Everything else was accurate, though. Thanks, Naquise.
I mean, who is she hanging out with to say these things about her?
Oh my God, that's an awful description of a human.
I feel like that all was accurate about me except for the feet because I have large feet.
That was one of her friends that told a newspaper.
Well, at least they're being honest.
When they're like,
my God.
Describe her for us. Okay. A fat, heavy-figured woman with a big head. What the fuck does that?
No, she was not a true friend. Had she been a true friend, she would have said her personality really shined.
A gross body supported by feet grotesquely small. Holy fuck.
My dad always said if I had small feet, I would fall over.
Holy shit.
Oh my God, that's so mean.
He said worse. That's not the worst thing
anyway,
he told me.
This guy, I mean, because he's a looker, apparently.
He is a good looking guy.
He looks skinny. I will say that. He looks like a slender man in
there are
comparison.
She's apparently...
that are into
larger
the larger
girls,
ladies.
Yeah,
Remember
BBWs.
the movie Summer Catch
No.
with Freddie Prinze Jr. and Jessica Biel?
Big, beautiful women's.
Oh my God, it takes place in the Cape.
Never saw it. Do you remember Shallow Hal?
Oh,
Yes.
yeah, with Jack Black.
Yeah.
But Summer Catch is a great
never heard of
movie.
it.
They were married in April of 1902. Not even a year later, about 8 months later. Around 3 a.m., it was a Tuesday, December 16th. Jenny, remember the adopted Jenny?
Right.
She
Jenny.
She runs to the neighbor's door and starts knocking. It's 3 a.m. Hello, hello. I don't know. That sounded English. Hello.
Hello.
Do you have some sugar and a cup of tea?
Do you want to say English? So I could do an English accent if you want.
She's beating on the door of the neighbor and she says, quote, Papa's burned himself.
Oh.
And the neighbor runs over him and his son and they find Belle hysterical. And this was the husband, Peter Gunness.
The body was already growing rigid. The back of his head bore an ugly wound thickly caked with blood, and his nose was broken and bent onto one side.
That doesn't sound like fire damage.
All right, so Bella at the time, gave the examiner the story of what happened. He was going to get his shoes at 3 a.m., which he kept near the stove to keep warm. Pretty smart.
Mm-hmm.
And right when he does that, when he bends down to get the shoes, a meat grinder falls on his head. And then a bowl of hot brine,
Woo!
which was apparently cooking at 3 a.m., burns his head. Now, this is what a meat grinder looks like in 1900s. I didn't know what it was either. So this is apparent. This is one from 1900. Exactly.
It looks like the ones that they use in Bob's Burgers.
Also in Les Miserables.
Yeah, that's a good point. They haven't really changed. So what you're looking at, I put a photo and this was on Etsy. Someone selling this 1900s meat grinder. Basically what you're thinking of, it clamps right to the table there. So what Belle was saying is her husband bent down to pick up his shoes and he must have clipped the side of it and it fell on his head. Now, if that falls on your head, it's probably not going to kill you, but that thing's pretty heavy.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to kill you.
Also, if you clipped it with your head, it must not have been secured properly.
Correct.
Because that thing's not going anywhere.
So with this photo here, the meat grinder, they would always keep this on the counter.
Right.
So it'd always be clipped on there.
Right.
Now, the medical examiner found no burns or scalds on the entire body. Remember, she said that the brine fell on his head.
Mm-hmm.
His nose was, quote, lacerated and broken, showing evidence of severe blows. So his nose was completely broken. This thing fell on the top of his head.
So she also punched him?
There was a laceration through the scalp and external layer of the skull, and he died. His cause of death was shock and intracranial hemorrhaging. She was not believed at all. There was an inquest that was conducted. They were going to try her for murder, but then Jenny, she comes forward and completely verifies her mama's story. Everything. Wow. It was so close that they said it sounded coached. But, I mean, Jenny was, 13 at the time? Or 12, actually. Who's going to not believe a 12-year-old, you know?
Right.
I mean, so they ended up not pressing charges. And after that, I put in my notes that Belle learned something about this, you know? She learns a little bit about how not to kill someone after this. Because she's about to go on a spree here.
It's an important practical lesson.
Myrtle eventually tells one schoolmate, quote, "My mama killed my papa. She hit him with a meat cleaver and he died. Don't tell a soul," end quote. Unfortunately, Myrtle won't be living too much longer after she said that. So after Peter Gunness dies, she becomes a farm widow. And I'm showing you pictures right now of the farm.
That's a nice looking farm.
It's a very nice looking farm. It's got a lake. Look at all the land there. It's a lot of land. I'll put this photo on talkmore.com.
Looks like something that would be sold for a multi-million-dollar housing development in today's time. Because that's all they do today is just knock trees down and build houses.
Yeah. Trees are life.
Stop building. There are too many neighborhoods. We don't want you here.
So after she becomes a widow, she starts working on the farm by herself. Now, she is 280 pounds of pure muscle, of pure John Perry. She starts working on the farm by herself. She is 280 pounds. Keep that in mind. She was going to pig auctions and hog auctions like I used to go to. Mm-hmm. They say she could pick up a 200-pound hog at the auction, put that hog in the back of her wagon by herself. There's not too many guys that can do that. But she was doing it. Now, remember, she grew up on a farm. Around that time, she puts in an ad in a local paper to hire a local farm hand, and Norwegian immigrant Olaf Lindbo. Because
Olaf.
Yeah, there's a few Olafs that end up in the murder pig pen.
I was mostly referencing Frozen.
But
never seen it.
Olaf Lindbo took her up on it. Now, one thing about Belle Gunness is her English was terrible, so she is mostly targeting Norwegian immigrants.
Gotcha.
And one of the big reasons they want to be with her is because they also miss their homeland. And they see a Norwegian woman who's wealthy and has this farm and will put out, because in her letters she's going to be sending, she says, "I'll put out," you know. Then they're just all like on that. It. Yeah. So a Norwegian immigrant, Olaf Lindbo, took her up on it. His life savings at the time in today's currencies was about $18,000.
Wow. So
this is, I think, the first time that she's like, "Holy shit, I just made a shit ton of money. This guy was here for 2 weeks and I just made 18 grand. He went to the farm. They became really close. And a lot of surviving victims said the same thing about Belle Gunness, is she was a sweet lover. They would make sweet love and she would caress his face, you know. And then they would put on that song Lollipop by Lil Wayne.
50 Cent.
Or whatever.
No, he's talking about a different song.
Oh.
He's talking about the song that goes, like a lollipop.
However, not long after he came to the farm as a farmhand, another guy, Chris Christopherson.
I know that name.
Was also contacted by Belle and said that she needed help because, quote, Olaf left in the middle of the night.
Well, how dare
he?
And he left his trunk and his shoes and his money, and he left.
Bye.
She said that he went to St. Louis to buy some land. And here's one of the MO things about this. And she's going to learn. She gets, how do you think she gets all these people coming to her farm?
She writes a lot of letters.
So she puts an ad out in the local paper.
The personals, the Craigslist of the 1900s.
And you're going to read the ad here in a second, but it's basically, I'm a well-to-do widow. I got a farm. Just come here and help me with the farm. We can bang it out, stuff like that, and live a happy life. And a lot of people took her up on that. So anyway, while Chris worked there, another man arrived. His name was Henry Gerholt. He had a heavy trunk with him, like all the men in this that came to her house. He was also carrying his life savings as well. He only lasted a few weeks, and we believe this is where he ended up right here. This is just
the fire?
Some of the
pile of dirt,
pile of bones and dirt in there. I think you see a shin bone. And quote, this is from Belle, quote, he said he was sick and couldn't do the work. He had gone to Chicago, she said, taking only a satchel with some clothes, his trunk, and the bulk of his garments, including a heavy fur coat he had left behind, which became one of Belle's favorite fur coats, and she would wear it everywhere. So what I was trying to say earlier is she learned very quickly to tell the men, hey, I want you to come here, but don't tell your family, don't tell your coworkers or your friends that you're coming. I want it to be a secret. Basically, don't tell anyone so they can't track you to me type of shit. You know what I'm saying? Not only that, cash out everything you own and bring all the money with you.
Right.
But she learned really quickly, because how she got caught was the family members coming down like en masse to her farm and be like, hey, we found all these fucking letters saying, come down here to LaPorte, Indiana. So where are they at kind of type of shit. And she can't just be like, oh, he went to Chicago, he went to St. Louis, like eventually. Anyway, this is the ad that she put out.
Wanted, a woman who owns a beautifully located and valuable farm in the first-class condition. Wants a good and reliable man as partner in same. Some little cash is required and will be furnished first-class security.
I think that's the same ad that Nicole put out that I responded to.
This looks exactly similar.
I responded to the same one.
Wow.
She would get up to 10, sometimes even more, replies a day. Mail, direct mail, snail mail coming to her mailbox a day. Pretty soon, men started showing up days apart from each other. So this was a murder business for her. That's what it was.
She was killing them all.
She was killing them all.
They'd show up and then she'd kill them.
Yeah. For instance, George Barry left Tuscaloosa, Illinois with $40K in today's money, obviously, telling family and friends he's going, quote, for a job and possibly marriage. Christian Hilkman left his farm with nearly $50,000 in today's currency, telling his boss he was going to, quote, marry a rich widow. Another Emil Tell left Osage, Kansas, with around $20,000, telling his friends he was, quote, going to LaPorte to get married, end quote. So you see real quick how she ended up with $1.2 million. Yep. There's 30 freaking bodies in the hog pen, and some of these, and she would only respond to people with, $20,000, $50,000 in today's currency that had that they could bring down. So she quickly amassed an amount of wealth from this. It was a good business. Like, I'm pretty jealous, actually. Anyway, this is where people would end up. I'm putting this photo on talkmore.com along with all the other ones.
Ooh, a box of bones.
There's a lot of boxes that were found. Now, keep in mind,
That
this
looks
was
like a pelvis.
Keep in mind, this
Or
was
hip
weeks
bone.
after. This was weeks after, or not even weeks, days after the house was burned down, and they thought she was a hero and she was trying to save her kids. It turns out she killed her kids and then burned the house down and then ran. One of the men that came down that got her caught was this guy, because his brother came looking for him. He was a well-to-do wheat farmer named Andrew Higgleyan. He met Belle through a series of letters in the summer of 1906, and there are about a year and a half of communications. She was really courting this guy, through multiple letters, and they got kind of desperate on her part, which was like, why are you not coming? And he was like, well, the winter's coming and my soybeans or whatever. So she's like, you need to come right now, cash out everything and come down. And she would say that out of hundreds of applicants, she'd chosen him to be his forever partner. Quote, take all your money out of the bank and come as soon as possible, end quote. I do not think a queen could be good enough for you. And in my thoughts, you stand highest above all high, and I will not let anything stand in the way of my doing anything for you. This is some of the correspondence. This was also the first account noted for sure when she says, hey, don't tell your friends and family, because he has a large, extensive network of friends and family, being rich. He does anyway. He tells his friends and family he's going to marry a rich widow. And even though she explicitly tells him not to, she also says, sell all your belongings and sew the cash in your coat when you come down.
That's not suspicious.
Not at all.
If you want to read this.
Dear one, make all haste, I beg of you. I'm so anxious about you, my only very best friend in all things. I wait every day to hear that you are coming, and be sure to arrange all matters so that you will not have to back anymore.
In January 1908, he goes to LaPorte, and like her previous victims, the first thing he did was go to the bank, accompanying Belle to the bank. And think about the bank, they're like, oh, another guy, eh? They go to the bank and cash out all of his savings, cash of what today's currency would be $75,000. So he was definitely worth the courting for over a year. So this is him from before he came, and kind of describe what he looked like after.
The head was separate from the torso, as was each arm from the shoulder down, and each leg from about 3 inches above the knee down, and to the further fact that the putrefaction had set in.
So she's not only killing these guys, and she's killing them with chloroform, putting them to sleep, or strychnine. She'll either kill them with strychnine. What strychnine kills them right off the bat, what it does is it contracts your heart where it can't pump anymore. That's how strychnine poisoning works. Or she'll use chloroform, which was her favorite, because it just puts you to sleep. Then she can take an axe, because obviously there's no arms or legs or head on any of these people. She's cutting off all the arms and head.
Right.
She's doing that herself. She's like hacking them up. So it's one thing to kill a husband or a man with poison. It's another thing to chloroform them, make them go to sleep, and then make a whole night of it, chopping off arms with your 3 kids staying upstairs, you know?
Yeah.
So anyway,
different.
this is where he ended up right here. This is you see his head right there. You see his head.
I'm looking at.
You see his eyes and his nose and his mouth right here.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, so I don't know if you see, but this is his feet.
Yep.
They were all separated. They kind of just threw all the body parts on this tarp right here.
I wonder what color tarp it was back in the day. It looks like maybe black.
Mabes.
Here's a better photo right here. You can see, I'll put these on talkmore.com, kind of graphic. More feet, but the whole body is kind of jumbled up together right here.
Huh.
And if you want to read this.
The face, moreover, of what remained of it was a thing of horror, sunken holes for eyes, a leering gash for a mouth, a zigzag crack from the top of the skull to the forehead.
So this is the head right there. Look at him smiling at you, Jen. You should take that guy home.
I mean, if he's worth $75,000, yeah, why not?
So this is his head. I'll put that on talkmore.com. I might have to take it off YouTube because I don't want to get banned for that shit. But that is the actual head. It's still got some skin on it. You can see where it's burned. You see where it's got burn marks on it.
Yep.
His teeth are pretty
nice
straight.
smile.
Nice smile. His eyes were actually sunken into his skull there. Kind of a crazy looking photo. This is the side of the head.
Oh, wow.
Now,
you can see his ears and his hair.
Look at the photo here. He was sleeping. So this is chloroform, and this is probably him snoring. And then all of a sudden, whack, his head's off. So
crazy.
I don't think he was, this isn't like because his face gets frozen. But it's not like, oh my God, there's an axe. It's more like,
yeah.
and then cut off.
Yep.
So I think Belle, I mean, she is a fucked up person, man. Number one, to kill her kids. And number two, she could kill these people with strychnine poison easy. Just give them she would always give them these cream pies with strychnine in them, whatever.
Almost like Granny Doss.
Yep.
But she opted not to do that. Instead, do chloroform so she can hack them up. Like, she is a sexual fucking sadist or some shit. Because she was also having sex with all these guys, and caressing them down and giving them one guy said that, quote, she would purr like a kitty. Oh, yeah. Give it to me.
Ew. Okay, that's enough. That's enough.
No. I don't want to hear your sex sounds. I do not want to hear your sex sounds. I'm taking my headphones off. No. We're like family now. That's weird.
Keep it in the family. Shit. So I'll put those photos on talkmore.com. They're very graphic. Yeah. Now, this guy also had defensive wounds, not like we think about today where it's just, you're trying to protect yourself and there may be scars. If you want to read this, Nicole.
Across his left wrist, as he had lifted it to ward his slashing bow, were 2 deep cuts laying into the bone. Another savage blow had chopped off the first joints of every finger of his right hand. In a death grip, the mutilated hand heft a tuft of short brown curly hair from the head of his murderer.
So he was holding on to her hair.
So they found 30 bodies after they think she's dead. And that may have been her body. Most likely not, because number one, it didn't weigh nearly the same. It was a woman, and she was seen with a woman right before this happened. But the body was nowhere near as hefty as Belle. And they were trying to say, oh, well, the fire condenses the organs and makes them... No, dude, that's not the same woman. And number two, where the fuck is her head?
Right.
What the fuck? But back then, they thought literally the fire just burned her head off, which is fucking ridiculous. In another part of the shed, they found a buggy with 2 men, 1 woman, and 1 little girl. The young woman was a 17-year-old, Jenny Olsen. They actually mapped that out to her. So she did kill her own children. They actually identified her. Out of the 4 they found in this one shed in this buggy, there were 24 pieces. So if you can do math, there's 4 people divided into 24.
6.
They were cut up into 6 pieces each.
Wow.
And this was normal for all the other bones they found, because they just found bones.
6 pieces, you think each leg, each arm, and then that's 1, 2, 3, 4. The 5 would be the torso, and the 6 would be the head.
And it's crazy, like I said earlier, you got to think of the MO, because she could have literally just poisoned these people and threw them in the ground, dead. But no, she opted to chop them up when they were sleeping, which is a whole nother level of fucking crazy.
With the exception of the uterus, none of the viscera could be recognized. Both arms were detached from the body. 2 femora were cut off through the lower third. They were found 4 arms and 4 forearms and hands with the body, but it is impossible to say which, if any, belonged to this body. Jenny Olsen had not been sent away to a seminary in California 2 years earlier. She had not gotten married and was not on her honeymoon journey. Chopped into a half dozen pieces, she had been dumped into a corpse-filled hole and covered with rubbish in her foster mother's hog pen.
It's just terrible.
So,
in a hog pen. Ugh.
So
hogs eat people.
I know that she probably didn't know that, because she would have just gave them to the hogs. But then again, she had all these farmhands. Now, to wrap this story up, obviously that's not Gunness in the fire. She killed her 3 children
and got away
and then left. She does have a lot of cash money on her, and a lot of people think she did just have like a driver or someone that was in the mafia or whatever get her out of town, maybe Chicago, maybe even across the world, somewhere in Europe. No one knows what happened to her. There's been sightings everywhere, just like Katie Bender. And there was one prominent sighting where they actually tested her DNA. This woman died and she was accused of arsenic poisoning, and she was the same age, she looked the same and everything else, and I believe it was 2014, they tested the DNA and it was not a match. So no one knows what happened to Belle Gunness. She has never surfaced again. It's a mystery, almost like Katie Bender, like what actually happened to her. No one knows. We may never know. And that's the story of her. She was an arch murderess that killed her 3 children, and she bolted and she left a severed body without the head, trying to portray as herself. They did find her gold teeth, and they said it was her gold teeth in the fire, but those are very suspicious circumstances. More I read into the book, it most likely seems the sheriff who was trying real hard to convict Ray Lamphere just planted a false set of gold teeth because, number one, they weren't burned up at all.
Oh, weird.
Like, at all.
Like, that melted.
Yeah,
doesn't
nothing.
gold melt?
Yeah, not only gold, but like the whole teeth, even
I don't
the
think
fillings.
teeth will melt.
But
That
like
won't melt.
the fillings and stuff.
That'll stay intact.
It was just really, it didn't. But anyway, she could Hitler it, where Hitler pulled out his false teeth and left them there.
His bridges, yeah.
You know, I'm saying that could happen too. But that is a story of Belle Gunness. It's one of those.
I like the old stories.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. So this is. It reminds me a lot of Katie Bender and the Bender family. That was like the first episode we did.
So, yeah.
So, and it was about the same time period, and she also got away. So it's just crazy. That's a crazy story. I really enjoyed reading it. That's check out the book on Kindle Unlimited from Harold Schechter. Really great true crime author. But that's all I got on the story. Any questions about anything?
So what was Lamphere convicted with?
Yeah, that's a great question. No one knows if he had any part in it at all, because Ray Lamphere was the farmhand that stuck around the longest, and there's no way for him to know. I mean, all these guys come and go. He sees them, they're leaving all the trunks. I mean, who's digging these holes? He admitted to digging a lot of the holes, the quote rubbish holes that she needed to put rubbish in. He would dig all these holes. I really think he had a part in it, and a lot of people think this too. She was paying him as a business, as was a murder business. They would come down, he would get paid so-and-so to dispose the body or whatever. Now, this is all speculation. And then that's when he left, is because he demanded more money, because now she's a millionaire and he's getting paid for killing these people not nearly as much as he thinks he should be worth. So he leaves, and then right after that, you see Belle going up to the sheriff and making all these accusations. He's following me, stalking me, he's threatening me, all this stuff,
right,
trying to make an alibi for herself.
So was he convicted of?
Yeah, he was convicted of arson, which is crazy because the choices were arson, which also includes murder because you burned down a house with kids in it, but they could never prove that it was actually the Belle Gunness or whatever. But they did actually convict him of arson, even though he did have an alibi. He was at a woman's house at the night of the fire. This is 3 a.m. But so he did get convicted of arson. They were going to appeal and stuff like that, but he ended up dying a year later anyway, so it didn't really matter. And like I said, about 20 years later, Belle's name surfaced again, but it's a Jack the Ripper type of case. It's not as famous as Jack the Ripper, but it's
like the female version of it.
Yeah, she killed a lot more people than Jack the Ripper.
Was a female.
I don't know about that, but I mean, maybe because look at Belle. I mean, she chopped up all these people, and she didn't need to, and she threw them in the hog pen. It's a crazy story. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll put all the photos on talkmore.com. Go there, share the post, please, and leave me a comment. You can request stories there. The YouTube video should be out on Wednesday. We put those out on Wednesdays. Be sure to subscribe to that. Also, subscribe to the podcast. If you like this episode and want to support us, go to talkmore.com/join. Become our taco, Supremo, small taco, or tachos, taco, nachos, and help us along this journey. Help Jen quit her second job. And that's all I got for the Belle Gunness case. I hope you guys enjoyed it. My name is John here with Jen and Nicole. Until next time, good night. You love the lovely people.